Welcome to the channel where I buy completely blown up engines and I tear them apart to figure out what went wrong and what parts I can salvage from them. Before we get into what I'm tearing down today, and you guys can already tell, I'd like to mention something that makes me laugh in the comments every single video. I mean, most videos. The comments are great. I appreciate all of them, but one person, every video or every other video, leaves a comment that says, "I wouldn't want you working on my car." And it makes me laugh because I'm an auto salvage business here. If I'm working on your car, that means you don't own it anymore because you crashed it or you blew it up. So yeah, I wouldn't want me working on your car either. Today's teardown is a big block 454. I finally got my hands on a BBC. Don't even, no. We are all adults here, so there's no reason to laugh or snicker when I talk about the British Broadcasting Company. There's no jokes there. None whatsoever. Now, this engine came in 96 to 99, 3/4 and 1 ton GM full-size trucks, Suburbans. It came in Sierra, or I guess they weren't called Sierras then, K25 and K3500s. It's a 454 cubic inch, 7.4 liter, all iron V8. In fact, I weighed this engine and it's 670 pounds, which really tests the strength of my Harbor Freight engine stand. I know some of you made comments about my new engine stand. It's not new. This is the one from my house. I just ran out of them up here. And, well, one of the ones up here I can't really trust anymore. I broke it. So this is really heavy. And there's actually a 2x4 holding the crank up. When we put this engine on the stand today, half of my guys cringed and held their breath. And then we all opened our eyes. And it wasn't on the ground, but it was kind of like this. So without the 2x4, this engine stand would be just as broken as the other one. So we're going to hope this doesn't fall off the stand today, but I did wear my steel toe shoes just in case. Try to be safe. I try. This engine is blown up. You guys need carnage. I'm here to deliver. The last several teardowns, they had some failures. They also kicked my butt. That Mercedes engine, this is a lot easier, albeit it's extremely heavy. So let's kind of show you what went wrong. About 8 months ago, I tore down a K20 that was completely blown to pieces, a Honda 4-cylinder, and I couldn't really tell until I pulled the engine apart. And I really like the fact that that engine kept all of its problems on the inside. But this big block, it put some of the problems on the outside. So there's one exit wound there, and if you can see light through it, that's because there's another one here. So, yeah, we're in for a treat today. You guys remember the drill. The first thing we're going to do is pull the plugs and see what they look like. Well, it looks like they're all, nope, not all. Most of them are breaking. I got to pull these shields. I just saw my life flash before my eyes. Now it looks like I got to pull the dipstick. Right off the bat, I'm faced with my first battle. Ha! Wasn't too bad. Ooh. That was almost bad. Wow. Glad I didn't have my hand there on those. Plugs are AC Delcos. And they have I don't know what these are supposed to be gapped at. That one looks pretty good. These all look good except for that one's got a slightly tweaked strap. But this one, that one means there's malice in the combustion palace. It's been mechanically regapped by the piston or something. We're going to find some carnage, guys. Now, we're going to try to get some weight off of this. I'm pretty sure all of these brackets are not aluminum, they're cast iron. And I really want to increase the chances of this engine stand making it through tonight. So we're going to get these brackets off, we'll get the water pump off, and then we'll get the exhaust manifolds off, and hopefully it'll only weigh 600 pounds at that point. We'll see. Ooh. thing is also pretty filthy, so the socket really doesn't fit too well on some of these fasteners here. So we're going to kind of scrape some of this grime off of here so that I don't round anything off. Oh, it's turning. It's bent. That's probably why this won't come out. There's another bolt over here somewhere. I don't know where. After much consideration and figuring out how tight both this fitting and this fitting are, I've made the executive decision to cut this EGR pipe. It's not really worth a whole lot of money, and I really, really don't want to have to pick this thing up off the ground. So, got my safety goggles on. I'm going to give this thing a little zip with the Sawzall. Actually, let's go this way so I don't cut anything else. Okay, let's just try a different spot then. Nope, that's going to wreck some stuff. What is this made out of? All right, let's get some other tool. Okay, if this doesn't do it, it should have. That was the right tool for that job. The next thing we're going to do is pull the upper intake plenum, and we're going to take that off. We'll get the distributor out, and then we'll get the lower. Hopefully this comes off pretty easy. Try to keep this all together. In fact, we've sold several of these intake manifolds. I'm going to try to keep this together. We actually sell quite a few of these intake manifolds when we find them. The upper and lower sell pretty well. It's probably the only parts I'll sell off of this, depending on what survived. Okay, let's see if this just lifts up. And there is the lower. Ooh. It's ugly. So we're going to try to pull this as complete as possible, but the first thing we got to do is get this distributor out of the way. Looks dirty, but okay. Next, we're going to get the fuel pressure regulator. Try to get this kind of loose here so that I have access to all the bolts that hold the lower manifold to the cylinder heads. I don't know how much room that's going to give us. It's not really super flexible. I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up in this area. Just make sure I can get these bolts out. This is super dirty in here. So to get to all the lower plenum bolts, they're actually inside the ports. We're going to crack these loose and get this up. Okay, all the easy ones are out, so now we have two more. One at the front and one at the back. They're a little more difficult to get to. Did I miss some bolts? Yes, I did. Missed one. There's definitely some oil sitting on the top of that valve. And lots of debris from when I pulled that lower plenum. Everything else is just dirty on this side. Some more oil on top of that one. That one. I don't know if you guys can see in there. There's some chunks of aluminum on the top of that valve. And who else knows what that is? You can kind of see maybe part of a ring. Definitely something that's not supposed to be there. Now let's get the right or passenger side valve cover off. Trying to keep everything together here. Well, it's dirty. Oh, I see a problem already. Well, that is a very small piston McNugget. I don't see anything else really alarming. I mean, just a small piece of aluminum. It's not too bad, right? Right? Okay, now I guess we can get the rockers and push rods out of it. There's a ton of oil varnish. It's like thick and gooey, slimy, sticky. I guess what I'm saying is nobody changed their oil. Ever. This is a lot easier to tell on aluminum engines, but it's kind of hard to see on an iron engine. Now let's pull the push rods out. Oh, that one came with a little piece of metal. Huh. Now we'll crack the head bolts loose. I hope. There's so much junk on this engine. Need to take a screwdriver and scrape it all out. Now these heads are iron, so they're heavy. I have no idea what to expect here other than maybe 75 or 80 pounds. Oh, it's going to do that. Okay. We're just going to slowly... Is it going to do that? Okay. Yes. That's as stable gets. Oh, and it doesn't want to let go? Huh. It's not too bad. Oh, they're heavy. They are very irony. Well, it doesn't look too great in here as far as overall condition. Lots of rust in this cylinder. It's clearly exposed to moisture. That piston's pretty clean. The rest of them are, they're not much dirtier. Let's see if any of them have any problems here. Okay, that all checks out. I don't see any marks on the pistons. Cylinder boards aside from the rust. Oh wait, holy cow, what the heck's going on here? What the heck did that? Check that out. That's like missing lining. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really thick. It's like the coating's gone, but I didn't know if these were coated or not. I think we're going to find more clues once we get this further apart. There's a bunch of junk in that one. These two look relatively okay. This one, that's thick. If you looked at those pistons and thought, man, that's got some high compression, those are flat top. Well, Look how deep the combustion chambers are. Let's go ahead and pull this head gasket off. And the head gasket looks okay. I don't see any areas that are torched through or anything. The issue is right here on the block anyway. There's definite signs of moisture and water in here. I don't see any issues with the head per se. Now for the driver's or left cylinder head, we'll get the valve cover off first. This must have come from something that saw a lot of dirt roads. There's a country song there somewhere. I'm not touching that. Well, the inside of this is really dirty. I don't see any aluminum in here. Let's start getting the rockers out of the way, see what the push rods look like. So far, so good. They're just really nasty. Oh. Well, I guess when they talk about a 3-angle valve job, that's the push rod you use because it's bent 1, 2, 3 directions. Well, in 3 different places. So I weighed the other head after I pulled it off, and it was 71 pounds, which is heavy. For me, anyway. Okay. I think we're going to come right off. Oh, my God. Well, I don't know if you can see this, but that same wear is over on this side. That could be from moisture. But that's not really my concern. That's my concern. Hold on. Well, I've wiped the bore, and there's definitely some metal around the outside of that bore. It's like worn through the coating. I don't even know if these are coated. This all looks really rough. Then you get here, and this gives you a new meaning to board out. I think this one's done. Oh my God, I've never had a block with this much bore missing. It's just gone. You can actually see the back of a freeze plug. It's got bore gravel, that's what that is. Let's see, can we get some pieces of it out? Or is it all, how is it all jammed in there? Let's get this head gasket off. Yeah. A little rough right there, but I think that's from moving the head around. That doesn't look like it's from heat. There's that combustion chamber from the explosion. There's definitely parts of bore and parts of piston and rings jammed between that valve and the valve seat. And this combustion chamber is nasty. It's got a bunch of water built up. I think this engine must have sat outside, sat with some water in it. I mean, the other possibility is when it blew up, it pushed water all throughout the intake manifold and all through into some of these cylinders. It didn't have to get ringed, and it could be coolant that sat in these cylinders. Let's move this valley cover. We'll pull these lifters, this tray out here. There's definitely lots of metal everywhere in the valley here. See how these come out here. I don't see any damaged lifters yet. Considering how violent this explosion was, I am pretty shocked. Alright, let's get the rest of these lifters out. And then we pull the pan. We're going to do something a little unorthodox for this channel. I'm not going to turn this engine over just yet. Just because of what I believe to be in the pan, I don't want to have to pick it up off the floor. So we're going to drop the pan down instead of pulling it off the engine when it was upside down. We're going to start zipping these bolts out, but I need to get some of this earth off of this engine so I can see where the bolts are. I need to kind of fix this a little bit. Yeah, that's not too bad. As I hit this, it sounds like a cash register. And now I think I can get on the bolt. That's what needed to happen there. I'm really just guessing where these bolts are. Because it's so, dirty. Oh, that's the last one. Okay. Oh boy. A full meal. Well, I can't tell you how happy I am that I didn't flip this engine over. Here's one rod and wrist pin, which is interesting that it's not centered anymore. I thought those were pressed on. There's a oil control ring, I think. And then there's the gravel. That's just, there's one piston McNugget. There's another. I can't believe this is all from one. This is amazing. I've never had this volume before. I mean, it is a big block, so that would make sense. I don't see anything other than piston and cylinder wall and rings. And keep in mind, part of that rod is still, it's like this paste. Why do I keep touching this? You clean this out. This is impressive. Really. I'm sure this blew up at idle. It just started making noise just this morning. And then before I knew it, this happened. Right? How many of you guys have heard that one? Now comes the extra safe part of pulling the 2x4 that's been supporting the front of this engine out so I can get the harmonic balancer off. I'm sure this is a lot lighter now. Oh yeah. This weighs just a little more than a complete LS with transmission now. We're just gonna, yeah, perfect. Before we try to take this crank pulley off, let's see if it turns over. I mean, I don't really know. Oh my God. It's raining engine parts. All right, well. It goes most of the way over, which is good. That gives me hope that I might be able to get all the rods and pistons out. The survivors, anyway. This is why we save the bolts, so we can put the puller on here. Well, there's a right way to use a puller, and then there's this way. Didn't work. So, come on. Let go. This isn't working. Okay. All right, so if it looks a little smoky, it's just because I breathed on it. It has nothing to do with any open fire. Don't watch this insurance. I guess we could get the big one. Let's try that. All right, let's try this. Let's try to give it a couple taps with a very small hammer. I can't tell if it's doing anything or not. I've never had one stuck like this. This ain't working, folks. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might have to throw in the towel on this endeavor. But I guess we'll flip the engine over and pull the rods and pistons out. That sucks. Time to turn this thing upside down and make a mess. I'm sure it's going to make a mess. Hopefully this works okay. Block chunks. It's all block right there. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Wow. Well, that has to be the coolest bent rod I've ever had. Again, we're adults here. We're not making fun of anything that's not engine related. Stop laughing. No, really, stop laughing. The pickup isn't really full of a lot of debris. It has a little bit in there, but it's not packed full. Nothing that would clog it. Let's start by removing the oil pump. There's the drive that runs from the distributor. I'm just going to set that in the ick bin. All right, now rods and pistons. As always, go front to back. Unfortunately, I'm going to start with the second one back, and then I'll try to get this really damaged rod out. Let's start with this one. Does that do anything? Not really worried about damaging anything in here. Look, I know this is going to tear this up. I don't care. We got to get this out. It's a must. Success! So now we're going to try to get this remnant off through the cylinder. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'd say it's got a 50% chance of possibly working. Okay, there's one. How are we going to turn this engine over? Let's try... Oh, wait. It's loose. It wasn't even tight. Huh. Who'd have thunk it? I'm impressed. Or should I be impressed? I don't know what I should feel. Yes. It's that moment. Oh, bearing foil. Boy, this just keeps getting better. Come on, let go out of there. I think I just saw another bearing fault. Yes, I did. More foil. And there is, I guess it's number 1, huh? That's broke bad, in a real bad way. Oh wow, it even machined the journal, the crank. Really well, might I add. Time for the next 2. Raining stuff. Pretty sure these rods and pistons aren't going to be worth anything because they've all waged a war. I kind of shot myself in the foot here. When I was using the puller to try to get the crank pulley off, I kind of screwed up the threads on the end of the crank. So that was my bad. I wish I hadn't done that. But anyway, we still have to turn this crank over to get all the rods and pistons out. And I know what you're saying. Well, you can get to these 2, and you can get to these 2, and then it'll be a lot easier to get to that one. And it turns out, you guys are right. We're going to do that. And I'm tired, and it's late, so we're just going to use the impact to get these loose. Really appreciate the cylinders without rust. Okay, now we are a little stuck. We can't get the rod bolt past this, so we're going to try to... Oh, look at that. It turns rather nicely now. And then there were 3. I would never do this on a good engine, just so you guys know. This is only because this engine is completely trashed at this point. I gotta turn this engine over. Now we're gonna try to turn this crank over, see how easy this moves. Still not great. Still has that one rod and piston that's not in good shape. Don't know what to do here. There we go. All right, this is going to take some effort to get this out because that bore is rusty, I believe. Let's see here. Oh, this one's not too bad. Only at the top. Well, the bearings get worse the further away you get from the oil pump. And I can't believe there was any bearing left in this cylinder. I mean, look at that rod. I've never had one bent like that. I can't believe it stayed together that much. Look at how it's cracked. That is for sure the coolest piece out of this engine. And all the rods and pistons have scoring and damage from fighting with flying debris. I mean, some of the ones towards the back of the engine aren't so bad. But it's amazing the damage that one rod and piston can do. All that's left that I can do is pull the main caps so we can see what half of the main bearings look like. So, might as well. Fine. As you'd expect, the main bearings are pretty torn up. Check out the amount of metal on that crankshaft. And none of these journals look too bad until you start getting towards the front of the engine. And that is where you can see there's lots of damage there. And then the counterweights here, they are beat up. These took a beating. Can you imagine the amount of force it takes to do this? I wonder how many RPMs this blew up at. Here's another look at the missing section of bore. It's crazy. You're looking at the water jackets at the cylinder head surface. A couple of takeaways from this teardown. I need a better harmonic balancer puller if I'm going to do big block Chevrolet engines. This puller has worked great on every engine that I've used it on up until this point, and it's just some cheap one that's been floating around the shop for some time. If I get another 7.4 in or a 454 in, I'm definitely going to have a better puller, because it sure would have been nice to show you what the timing system looked like and take a look at that cam, but never say never, there might be another one down the road. This engine was blown up because someone ignored all of the signs. They could have been maybe just a mile from home. They're going to make it. I don't think they made it. This person, it was on the side of the road. This is a side of the road failure, and it could have been avoided. This engine had plenty of warning signs that something was about to go wrong. It could have had low oil pressure. The oil light might have been on. It might have been hammering. I mean, unless you're deaf and blind, you knew something bad was happening, and it could have been a fleet vehicle. These engines were also in like step vans and motorhomes, so who really knows the scenario other than someone's negligence led to this engine's demise? This wasn't something that just arbitrarily happens. And it's kind of a shame, because these engines are pretty good engines. I haven't really seen a lot of bad ones, but that one is very, very bad. Most of that's going to end up in the scrap bin, maybe intake manifold and bracketry. That's about all that survived. If you'd like to buy parts off of this engine or any of the other engines I've torn down, I'm going to leave our email in the video description. And as always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.